One observes with a mixture of disgust and dark amusement that the 47th presidency of the United States has dispensed entirely with the tiresome formality of concealment. The bribe, that ancient lubricant of despotism, has historically required discretion. The envelope pass beneath the table, the numbered Swiss account, the offshore shell company. Donald Trump, with the vulgar genius of a man unburdened by shame, has instead mounted his venality on a plinth in the Oval Office for all to admire. Consider, if your stomach permits, the tableau presented on November 4th of this year, a delegation of Swiss tycoons processed into the White House bearing tribute like supplicants to a sultan. Not diplomatic credentials or trade proposals, mind you, but a 1-kilogram gold bar stamped with the numerals 45 and 47, lest anyone mistake which terms of royal incumbency were being commemorated, and a Rolex desktop clock of such ostentatious magnificence that the company's executives had reportedly rejected a rare titanium timepiece as insufficiently gaudy for the recipient's tastes. The president accepted these offerings with the practiced grace of a man whose entire life has been a rehearsal for this moment of tribute collection. 10 days later, Swiss tariffs plummeted from 39% to 15%. The gold bar now rests upon the Resolute Desk, that venerable artifact of Anglo-American friendship, where it squats like a toad on a cathedral altar. Trump has achieved what decades of campaign finance reform sought to prevent: the direct, visible, measurable purchase of American trade policy, conducted in broad daylight and photographed for posterity. The Swiss at least possessed the decency to provoke a criminal investigation in their own country. 2 Green Party lawmakers have formally requested that prosecutors examine whether their compatriots committed bribery under Swiss law, a refreshing reminder that somewhere in the world, the exchange of gold for favorable government treatment still raises eyebrows. In America, by contrast, the response from the governing party has been the kind of studied silence one associates with hostages reading prepared statements. But Switzerland was merely warming up the orchestra. The Qatari royal family, demonstrating the ambition that petro-wealth affords, dispensed with trinkets and offered instead a Boeing 747-8 luxury aircraft valued at $400 million. This aerial palace, fitted with flowing staircases, 9 bathrooms, 5 kitchens, leather lounges, and a master suite that would embarrass a Medici, was to become the new Air Force One. The president, confronted with concerns about accepting what constitutional scholars unanimously identified as a blatant violation of the Foreign Emoluments Clause, responded with the rhetorical sophistication we have come to expect. He would be stupid to decline such generosity. One cannot accuse the man of false modesty. He knows precisely what he is, and he has correctly calculated that no one who matters intends to stop him. The aircraft has since been formally accepted by the United States government, a fig leaf of sufficient sheerness that one can see everything through it, and now awaits retrofitting in San Antonio. Security experts estimate the conversion will cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars and consume at least 2 years of labor, rendering the gift far more expensive than simply purchasing a new aircraft. But expense has never been the point. The point is the transaction itself. Qatar wanted MQ-9 Reaper drones, the most lethal armed unmanned aircraft in the American arsenal, never before sold to any Middle Eastern nation, and behold, they shall have them. The symbolism is perfect, a pleasure craft exchanged for instruments of death, the velvet glove revealing the mailed fist. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy summarized the arrangement with admirable clarity. Trump's first foreign trip was not to America's most important allies, nor to address the world's most pressing crises, but rather to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, the 3 nations that have agreed to pay him directly. This is not diplomacy, it is the collection of tribute from client states. Murphy was not being metaphorical when he called it a national security disaster and a moral abomination. Both characterizations are strictly factual. Yet even this baroque corruption pales before the cryptocurrency ventures that have become the family's primary wealth extraction mechanism. The Trump meme coin, launched 3 days before the inauguration with all the subtlety of a 3-card Monte dealer setting up on a street corner, constitutes what investigators have called unlimited political bribery, rendered in digital form. The mechanics are elegant in their shamelessness. Anyone on Earth, including foreign governments, sanctioned individuals, and criminal enterprises, can purchase the tokens anonymously and thereby deposit funds directly into accounts controlled by the president and his family. Since January, This arrangement has generated more than $800 million in income and added as much as $11 billion to the family's paper wealth. When the coin's value inevitably collapsed, wiping out $2 billion in losses for retail investors, including many of the small fry suckers who form the base of Trump's political support, the family engineered a remedy of stunning audacity. They announced that the top 220 holders of the meme coin would be invited to a black-tie dinner with the president at his Virginia golf club, with the top 25 securing a private reception beforehand. The presidency of the United States was being auctioned off in real time, with the bidding conducted through cryptocurrency wallets and the prize being FaceTime with the most powerful man in the world. The coin's value spiked 60% on the news. The family pocketed at least $320 million in trading fees alone. Who attended this gathering? We shall largely never know because cryptocurrency is designed for anonymity, but investigative reporting has established that at least 19 of the top 25 ticket holders were foreign nationals. Among them, Justin Sun, a Chinese billionaire who had been facing civil fraud charges from the Securities and Exchange Commission, until, in a coincidence of miraculous timing, the Trump administration suspended the case after Sun poured $75 million into the family's various crypto ventures. Sun subsequently acquired the top position on the memecoin leaderboard and secured his seat at the president's right hand. Anthony Scaramucci, briefly the White House communications director during the first Trump administration, and therefore someone with relevant experience, described the arrangement as Idi Amin-level corruption. Even Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum and no enemy of cryptocurrency, warned that politician-backed coins are simply vehicles for unlimited political bribery, including from foreign nation-states. The pardon power, that constitutionally enshrined instrument of mercy, has been converted into yet another revenue stream. Changpeng Zhao, founder of Binance and the most powerful figure in global cryptocurrency, pleaded guilty in 2023 to enabling money laundering that facilitated drug trafficking, terrorism financing, and child sexual abuse material. He served 4 months in federal prison. Upon Trump's return to office, Zhao mounted an aggressive clemency campaign, while his company simultaneously cultivated business relationships with World Liberty Financial, the Trump family crypto venture. Binance provided technical assistance for the family's stablecoin. An Emirati state investment firm then used that stablecoin for a $2 billion investment in Binance, a transaction that effectively deposited $2 billion into accounts linked to the president while Zhao awaited his pardon. The pardon was granted in October. Trump, when asked on 60 Minutes why he had pardoned Zhao, responded, "I don't know who he is. I don't think I ever met him. This is a man who had just freed a billionaire whose company props up his family's fortune, and he cannot be bothered to learn the fellow's name." One might call this plausible deniability if it were plausible. Trump operates with the serene confidence of a man who has correctly identified that accountability is a fiction maintained for suckers. The Republic's constitutional guardrails, the emoluments clauses, the bribery statutes, the conflict of interest regulations, assume that officials will at minimum pretend to comply with them, and that Congress will at minimum pretend to enforce them. Remove these pretenses, and the machinery of oversight sits idle, a museum piece from a more credulous era. Consider how Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, navigated this landscape. Facing potentially ruinous tariffs on his company's products, Cook presented himself at the Oval Office in August, bearing a handcrafted glass sculpture mounted on a 24-karat gold base, designed naturally by a former Marine, because the theater of patriotism must be maintained even in the act of purchasing exemptions from patriotic tariffs. Cook personally donated $1 million to the inauguration. He sat on the dais at the ceremony. He attended dinners at Mar-a-Lago. He kept his mouth scrupulously shut as other executives criticized administration policies. Within hours of his Oval Office performance, Apple was exempted from the 100% tariff on semiconductor imports that was about to devastate its competitors. The company's stock rose 8% over the following days. Cook had not merely avoided catastrophe, he had weaponized the shakedown racket against his rivals. The golden disc now sits on the Resolute Desk beside the Swiss gold bar, a trophy case of successful extractions. The sum effect is the comprehensive privatization of foreign and domestic policy. Trade decisions are made on the basis of who has delivered sufficient tribute. Pardons are issued to cryptocurrency moguls whose companies funnel billions into family ventures. Arms sales to Middle Eastern nations are approved in proportion to the luxury aircraft, real estate deals, and investment capital flowing from those same nations to Trump-controlled entities. A congressional report found that pardons issued in the administration's first year eliminated $1.3 billion in court-ordered restitution and fines owed to crime victims, a direct transfer of wealth from those harmed by the pardoned criminals to the president who freed them in exchange for campaign contributions and political support. The founders, who studied the decay of republics and the rise of tyrannies with an urgency born of recent memory, wrote the emoluments clause precisely to prevent this degradation. They understood that a president who could receive gifts from foreign powers would inevitably become their servant rather than the servant of the American people. One of the weak sides of republics, among their numerous advantages, is that they afford too easy an inlet to foreign corruption, Hamilton wrote in Federalist No. 22. He could not have imagined a president who would make such an inlet the centerpiece of his governing strategy, nor a Congress that would stand by applauding as he did so. What we are witnessing is not the corruption of the American system, but its logical endpoint. For decades, the country has marched steadily toward the proposition that money is speech, that corporations are people, that the wealthy should enjoy legal privileges unavailable to ordinary citizens. Trump has merely stripped away the remaining decorative flourishes and revealed the transaction in its nakedness. The gold bar on the desk is not an aberration. It is an honest representation of how power actually functions in a plutocracy that has finally stopped pretending to be anything else. The question before the republic, if it remains a republic, is whether a nation founded on the principle that no one is above the law can survive a president who has made the open sale of his office into performance art. The Swiss have at least begun the process of investigation. The Americans so far have done nothing but watch as the tribute piles up on the Resolute Desk, a stack of gold and glass that grows higher with each passing month. Future historians, if they are permitted to write honestly, will mark this as the moment when the pretense collapsed and the American experiment revealed its vulnerability to the oldest form of political decay, the simple, direct purchase of power by those with sufficient funds. One ought not hold one's breath waiting for the hero who will restore propriety. The Republican Party has made its accommodation with the new order. The Democratic opposition has proven impotent to do more than issue statements of concern. The courts, stacked with appointees selected for their willingness to defer to executive authority, have dismissed or mooted the cases that might have established limits. The guardrails are down. The Treasury is open, and the President of the United States awaits his next delivery of gold.